The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
It's right about time again to swerve again, confuse the general fans again.
I never heard this story before, Bruce, from you. And that's why I'm saying it now, because I don't want people now to be going down my throat. I remember, Bruce, for the longest time in my mind, in my head, and I didn't know this Jim Ross story. You just told me this for the first time. I know I had The Rock in my mind for the longest time. And, you know, and I never wanted to say anything because of Don Morocco. Don the Rock Morocco. I was a huge fan of, and I had like The Rock, and I'm thinking that it was very disrespectful to Morocco. And then I remember one day before a show backstage, I pulled Rock to the side and I said, Rock, listen, how about The Rock this, The Rock that, the same thing. And I said, bro, I've been thinking about this, but I didn't want to disrespect Morocco. So like, this is the first time, like, I didn't know that Ross was like coming from the same place.
Yeah.
But Bruce, you know what I say about
because
Rock?
you know, I mean, after we had that,
go ahead.
We had that conversation with Rocky, and he was just so he didn't want to be a heel. He didn't feel it. He didn't want to be labeled in the Nation of Domination, and it was perfect for him. Yeah. And he just didn't want to do it. So when we left, I talked to Jim Ross about it, and Jim had this idea. So we got him on the phone and laid it out to him, and he was like, okay, yeah, you know, okay, that could work. But Vince wasn't crazy about The Rock because of Morocco either.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, I could tell you this too. I wasn't crazy about the Nation of Domination either, but when I saw it, I was like, yes. You know, when you saw the chemistry, you knew how smart Farouk was, you know, Ron Simmons. But Bruce, you know what I tell everybody about Rock? Because they ask me about him all the time. I want to see what you think about this. The one thing that I took away with Rock was, Bruce, you know, you've dealt with thousands and thousands of the boys. Bro, when I dealt with Rock, even during the Nation days, before he was The Rock, bro, he was smarter than everybody else.
Oh, yeah, he got it.
Right, bro? He was just like a step. He was just smart. Bro, you know how wrestlers are paranoid and why we doing this, where we get. Bro, he was smarter than everybody else.
Well, okay, you go back to, and it was Rock and Hunter and their program and whatnot. And, you know, write all these scripts and stuff and hand it to each guy. You say this, you say this, you say this, you say this. And Hunter would get in the ring and he would eat Rock up. He would go off script. And Rock, being the company guy, doing what's right, he would stick to the script. And he would come back and Hunter would get his ass chewed out by Vince. You know, God damn, you're not doing what was written page. But Hunter was getting over. He was getting over on Rock. And Rock comes up to me and he's just livid. He goes, this guy goes out here every week and he's cutting promos and nothing's on here, man. And I'm doing my job because I'm telling you. I said, hey, it's live. Yeah, it's live. You can take the ass chewing. You can hang. And so they would go out there, man, and they took their little personal barbs. And the reason that issue worked so well, they didn't like each other. They didn't. There was a lot of personal jealousy there.
Yeah.
And Hunter would just, poke that bear. And Rock finally had it. And then you got to see, okay, kid's got chops. He had chops. But he was trying to do, and then when you learn, okay, it's live.
Right.
If I screw up, I take the ass chewing. If it's good, then I get patted on the back. Everybody loves me. You're the hero.
That's it. All right, yep. Bruce, one other thing I'm going to give you credit for here. I've never told this story before, so this is a first because I blame you for this. This is a blame, bro. This is This is a heat thing. This ain't a put you over thing. Okay.
All right, good.
Now, everybody knows, probably going on a solid 15 years now. Jim Cornette hates me more than hate itself. Now I say, Bruce, I swear I don't have.
That's my fault.
Yes, and I'm gonna refresh in your memory about something. Now, I don't have an ill will in my body towards Jim Cornette. I did JR's podcast. I said to JR, bring Cornette on the podcast. Let's end this. He refused to come on the podcast. He wouldn't even come on the podcast. Okay. So now there are so many theories why he hates me, why he hates the Yankee from New York so much. Okay. A lot of theories out there. Okay.
Right.
But I remember something, if we want to really go back to the root of it. Okay, I remember when you lived in Monroe, Connecticut. Okay, and you had Jim and I think it was his wife at the time, the redhead. What was her name?
Heather.
Yeah. Okay, it was Jim and Heather, Bruce and Stephanie, and it was Vince and Amy, and 9-year-old Will, and 6-year-old VJ.
Who ate doggy ice cream.
But I also remember, Bruce, at some point during the night, I remember Jim Cornette laying on a hammock in the backyard. And I remember Bruce Prichard handing 9-year-old Will and 6-year-old VJ a hose. And sent the kids to the direction of Jim Cornette and told them to spray him down.
Are you sure that was me?
Yeah, no, that was you, bro. And I remember he got all tangled up in the hammock. He got up cussing, chasing my kids. I think that's where it all started, bro.
Are you sure that was me?
Yeah, that was you, bro. Then you fed VJ the dog ice cream.
I remember that. Your kids stole my hose and said, watch this.
Yeah.
We're going to go get that southern pizza.
Yeah.
And your language was a little atrocious, too. I must tell you that, too. I was shocked.
Oh,
I was taken aback. My virgin ears had never heard such
the good old days. All right, Bruce, I got to move us along. Okay? Because we're going to be on here. I could be on here 6 hours with you. I got to move you along. I remember vividly, bro. You took me out to dinner somewhere. It was just the two of us. And you broke the news to me that Paul and Nash are jumping ship. They're going to WCW. They're not going to be part of the company. And there was some concern there on your part. Bro, did you ever dream with Hall and Nash leaving to go to WCW that the wrestling business as a whole was going to go in the direction that it went?
No, but I give them credit from the standpoint of how they did it and what they did. You can't take that away from them. It was beautifully done. But no, I definitely didn't see it at the time. And it was just simply one of those things in our business. We were just starting to catch on again, and business is starting to get good again, and we're finally getting Diesel in a spot where, man, he's hot again. And Razor was steady, and that one was going to hurt. I knew it was going to hurt for a little while, but I never in my wildest dreams imagined that it would do what it did.
Yeah.
With the NWO and all that.
Bruce, I remember this too. I don't know if you remember this. There are a lot of things I remember vividly. You were a part of, Bruce, believe it or not. Okay? Bro, I was at your house the night Hogan came out as the third party of the NWO watching that pay-per-view with you. And, bro, I remember saying to myself, I didn't say it to you. I remember saying to myself, oh, my God, we're dead. We're absolutely dead. Because I knew that's how big it was at the time,
Yeah. And the next night was the first night that they beat us.
Was it really, bro? Was it the next night? Wow. See, unbelievable. I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
It was Bash at the Beach. Hogan joined, and they had the Nitro, Jacksonville or something like that. And that was the first time they beat us in the ratings, head to head.
Yeah. Bruce, there's so many things. I got to kind of get to just a couple of tough questions here now, because I've had you on for already an hour and 15 minutes, and I don't want to keep you on for 3 hours. Bruce, listen. Okay, let me think of where to start. Okay,
The
Bruce,
beginning.
I know that in about 2008, and bro, I'm reading the way they explain this on Wikipedia, and this is what they say on Wikipedia, okay? And you probably read it yourself. And, yeah, because I got to ask you about the stalker too at the end of the interview. I never heard the stalker story. You got a stalker, bro?
I actually got two now, but I had a stalker way back early in Brother Love days, and I got one now. But it's a whole other issue.
Bro, we didn't even talk about Brother Love. Let me get this in there real quickly. Reading Wikipedia, bro, I never realized how many lives Brother Love had. They just kept bringing Brother Love back, bro. It was like Brother Love never got old. He just showed up, and here he is again.
He's old. He's dead.
Bro, I would have to think, Bruce, knowing you and knowing the stress of your job, I would have to think that was the most fun for you far and away.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It was a chance, I got to be somebody else. I got to dive and go out and perform. Without a doubt, that was the best.
But Bruce, that was also probably your release because you were in such a high pressure job. So what happened when that went away, bro? That had to really affect you on many levels.
It was, I did 3.5 years. Now think about this, especially then. 3.5 years without interruption. Piper didn't do that. Jesse didn't. Nobody did it after me. It was 3.5 years straight, every week, every show. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of exposure. He needed a rest. He needed a rest. And that time, Percy was coming in, and it all fit. It just was right time, right place, and nothing lasts forever.
Bruce, I got to ask you this, and maybe I'm totally wrong, and you got to school me on this. Now, bro, I know, you got your rear end kicked in. I know you bumped all over the place. I saw all that. But, bro, were you ever officially in a match?
Yeah, I was officially in matches like in Dallas and Global during those times, man. I had matches down there. And then,
I'm talking about the Brother Love character.
No. Well, no, not really. No, I went in and did the stuff with Savage, and, Sherry, and Dusty, and Sapphire, and Liz. But it was just me getting involved.
How could you get the way wrestling is? How could you get away with 3.5 years of that character and you didn't find your way in a match?
Dude, man, I just took a hell of an ass whooping. It was great. It was so good, man. It was such a great spot because, like, Hogan would take time off, and then he would want to come back to kind of get the ring rust off or just go do something. And Vince would book, the Brother Love show with his guest Hulk Hogan, and we'd go out to Chicago, go to Houston, go to Dallas, and do it. And of course, you sell out because Hulk's on the crowd. And I go, yep, I sold out the Summit. Yep, sure did. Who are you with? Hulk Hogan. But it was, it was fun. He was a lot of fun.
All right, now, bro, here's the question I want to ask you. And Bruce, I'm asking you because I'm
on Wikipedia.
No, this was, well, a little of it was, but I'm interested in this. If you don't want to answer, it's okay. I totally understand. Bruce, when I sat back, when I look at my WWE days, this is what's amazing to me. And, this gets said a lot, okay? Vince McMahon, absolutely surrounded himself with geniuses in key positions. Bro, we can go up and down the list, but, guys like you, guys like Pat, I give Kevin Dunn all the credit. The fact that Kevin Dunn is still there working for Vince and not dead just absolutely boggles my mind. The Pat Patterson, people like this. So he really surrounded himself with people that challenged him. And when you know Vince, like you knew Vince and I know Vince, Vince does not want yes guys. He's not a yes kind of guy. He likes you to have the brass balls, like he always said, and be honest with them and tell them how you feel. That's what he likes from people. And I witnessed you doing that, Pat, Kevin, across the board. Okay. We fast forward now to, I leave Bruce around the year close to 2000. Okay, now Bruce, Stephanie more or less gets gets put in the spot as the head of creative. Okay. Now, Bruce, I got to tell you this. When I saw that immediately happen 15 years ago, I said to myself, I think this is one of the worst decisions that Vince McMahon has ever made, because I knew Vince's love for his daughter. I saw it firsthand. And if she was not good in her job, and if she fell short, Vince was not going to allow his daughter to have egg on her face. He was not. His daughter in that spot was going to outrank business, outrank money, outrank everything. And he was not going to let her have egg on her face that she failed at any point in time. Okay, now, I'm talking from my point of view, Bruce, not yours. So I don't want to put any heat on you. Stephanie sat in with the creative team a couple of months before I left. There was nothing special creatively about Stephanie. I sat there with her, and listen, Bruce, some people are creative, some people aren't. Some people are, business smart, some people aren't. I'm horrible at that stuff. So I never saw a creative side of Stephanie, so I questioned it. Then after 2000, bro, slowly but surely, like the ratings start dropping a little bit. Now, me knowing Vince and knowing Vince's track record, I'm saying to myself, if that were anybody else, they would have been replaced. But he's not. No matter what happens, he's not taking his daughter out of that spot. He backed himself in a corner where he can't do that. All of a sudden, Bruce, 2008 comes along. And I don't know exactly what went down, but what I read and what I understand is almost like, well, Bruce, thank you for 22 years of your, in the business and your dedication and your loyalty to me. But maybe it's time that you move on. That's kind of the way I read things. Now, where I'm getting to is this, Bruce. I saw Vince surround himself with great people, never intimidated by anybody. He used strong people to make himself stronger. I saw it firsthand. I look at the WWE today. I look at ratings numbers. I'm not talking about dollars and cents and Wall Street and stockholders and all that. I'm talking about how many people watch the show today compared to who used to. Okay? And listen, bro, I'll never forget Kevin Dunn saying to Vince McMahon, Vince, I never thought 10 million people would be watching wrestling on a Monday night. Okay? That's where it was, Bruce. It's at about 3.5 now. Okay? Now, Bruce, I look at who's employed at the WWE right now. I think in my mind, Pat Patterson and, Mercury and Noble are agents for the WWE. I see a guy like Bret Hart sitting at home. I see a guy like Mick Foley, who arguably cut the best promo in the business, not having a place in the WWE. I was reading an article this week, Joe Laurinaitis, Animal, calling, NXT, let me be a trainer. Let me be a trainer. Let me be a trainer. They don't even get back to the guy. And my assessment of all this is, listen, man, I'm just calling it the way I see it. I don't think Stephanie and Triple H want to be challenged. I don't think they're going to hire people that challenge them. I think they want yes men. And that's why I think the product today is mediocre at best, because they don't want a Bruce Prichard, or they don't want people that are going to challenge their authority, which is the complete opposite of the way Vince McMahon ran his business. Now, Bruce, you may want to comment on this. You may not. Am I totally out of my mind, or is there some sense to my craziness?
Well, to start off with, you started off talking about Vince and yes men and so on and so forth. And that's probably the biggest misconception about Vince that there is, that he likes to surround himself with yes men that are constantly blowing smoke up his ass and what have you. To come from me, because I was probably labeled one of the biggest kiss asses, that was there. And if you were to ask Vince McMahon, who was probably the last person to kiss his ass and not come right at him would be me. And he used to laugh at that and go, they don't know. And I resigned myself to, they'll never know. But as you do know, because you were there, I fought Vince on everything. And I think that was a big part of my longevity, was because we did not view the business the same way. And I would fight him from my standpoint. What people confuse sometimes is, once we did this and we fought, a decision was made. And he's the boss and the owner of the company, and it's his final say. So when we leave there, I'm supporting him 100%. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to pull off what we decided together to the very best, as if it was my idea, if indeed it wasn't. So I always fought for that. I just, that's just the way I am. I mean, okay? I'm going to tell you what I think, whether you like it or not. I try to be diplomatic. I wasn't always the most diplomatic person in the world. I learned that over the years. So be a little more diplomatic, be a little bit nicer, if you will. But as, everybody grew and the business changed in and of itself. And, I go back, I can't even remember when he put Steph in charge of everything. But in the beginning, it was more of an administrative role on Stephanie's behalf to kind of manage and get everything done, because, I know for me, I wasn't always the most punctual as far as turning in shows. I was as bad as Vince. I would wait till the last minute because I knew it was going to change anyway. So, she was there to kind of get the cattle prod, and get out and keep everything moving. It is his dog. But I have to argue the other way on that, because, as you know, you were there around Shane and around Stephanie at the house in business. He did not judge them fairly all the time. If anything, I think he was a lot harder on them than he would have been on any other average employee. So he judged them and he held them to a much higher standard than he did everybody else. I think he held you and I to a much higher standard. I know he did with me. I mean, he loved to death, but he treated me like family, good and bad. And we had to step up and do that much more. So I don't think that Stephanie would be safe in that bubble of, I'm his daughter, so he's not going to fire me. Because Vince, he would make that change if he felt that change needed to be made. And Stephanie, in her position, she always had, you've always had a head writer of Raw, a head writer of SmackDown with their different teams. I don't know how it is now. I haven't been there in 7-8 years. So I can't really speak to what it's like now. But for a long time, there were different levels. And because I worked on both shows, I kind of did everything. I floated back and forth and kind of oversaw, both throughout the whole time there. So it was, and then Stephanie, over that. But I don't think she's protected because, her last name's McMahon. I think that if Vince felt that she wasn't doing her job, he would make a change. And I don't even know. Maybe you do. I don't. Is she still in charge of creative now, or is that Hunter?
I have no idea, Bruce. But Bruce, let me ask you this. I mean, come on, bro, be honest with me. With all your experience at the time, and you were experienced in everything, a lot more than I did. I stuck to writing TV. I stuck to what I knew. You did a lot more than that. Bro, did they really not need your experience and your creativeness and your expertise in so many fields and knowing the business inside out?
But then I think you can also look at it from the standpoint of anybody can be replaced at any given time. And whether it was simply we can even replace him, we can replace you and everybody else. I had a hell of a run, and I can't look back on it and say, do I want to be there? Would I love to be there? Yeah, I would. I really would, because I do think I could offer an awful lot. on a lot of different levels. That's not my decision to make. And I'm doing what I'm doing now and having fun doing it. But yeah, I would love to be able to go back and help that. It's just different time, different time, new time. You change with the times, and or you get out. And I think that at the time, my attitude and some of the things that I had done might not have been the best way to handle a lot of situations. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of, that's one of those answers where basically it is what it is.
Yeah. Bruce, let me ask you this, because I know you had a relationship with him, and I loved him too, man. I just thought he was a heck of a guy. But again, you were around much longer and, much closer to him than I was. I'm talking about Shane McMahon. If Shane had never left Bruce and he was still there, do you think the company would slightly be different? Do you think we would be seeing different things if Shane, with his expertise and his background, had a say so in the business that we're seeing today?
Well, okay, I'm glad you phrased the question that way. No, because no different than me being there, no different than you being there, no different than Stephanie being there, Paul, no matter who it is, Vince is going to make the final decision. Vince is going to set the course, right or wrong, and that's the way it's going to be until Vince decides, which you and I both know he's not. He's going to do it till he dies. Yeah. But at the same time, I do look at things, and I look at NXT. I look at what they're doing with the Performance Center and the development. That is different than what they're doing on Raw and SmackDown. And I find that exciting as hell, because it is more old school. And I look at, I hear people mock Triple H all the time. And if, you go back before Hunter and Stephanie were an item, before they were dating, before they were doing anything, Paul Levesque was a student of the game. Mm-hmm. He always had ideas. He was always there pitching. He always, he was there early, he stayed late. He busted his ass. He happens to fall in love with the boss's daughter, marry her, and now is a part of the family. So it's easy to go back and say, oh, he married into it. And I think he's, judged by a whole different measuring stick than everybody else, too. Much more so because his last name ain't McMahon. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So he's got to prove himself that much more. And, I know how hard he worked. I know, what was in his head when I was there. And I look at what he's done with NXT, and it is different than what they're doing with the show. And for me, I don't think that the business will ever die. It will evolve. It'll grow. Everybody said it was dying in 1984 when Vince went national and absorbed all the territory. Goddamn, the business is dead. It's dead. It's all over. We're all going to be unemployed, and there's not going to be anything. And it grew to what it is. Bruce,
let me hit you with this though, because I don't necessarily think the wrestling business will die. I don't see that happen. I wrote a column that some people jumped off bridges for, saying that the wrestling business is dead. What I meant by that is the wrestling business as I knew it is dead. It's not the same anymore that I grew up on. Okay. But Bruce, I want to ask you this question. Here's where my concern with the wrestling business goes. Bruce, you are one of the guys on the list. The play that the internet wrestling community had, the effect that it had on the WWE when we were there, is Howard Finkel used to do his reports every morning. He would tell you what Meltzer's saying, what Keller's saying. He would pass it out. We would read it, rip it up, and throw it away. That was the amount of influence it had. So the
900 numbers, right?
Yeah, the 900 numbers. So Bruce, we understood. Listen, that internet wrestling community, it's the small community with the loudest voice, but they're going to watch wrestling regardless because that's what they do. We got to go out and get the masses. That was always the game plan. We got to get the people that aren't watching. Bruce,
Yes.
there was a point in time, it was crystal clear this past year, January at the Royal Rumble, when Reigns was going to win it, and the people in Philadelphia started booing him out of the building. Bro, I could clearly see from that moment on a shift in the booking and the creative in the WWE where they, for the first time, bro, they were allowing that internet wrestling community to dictate direction to them. I doubt that the million of people watching at home were booing Roman Reigns out of the building. We were in Philadelphia, bro, the hardest crowd in the United States. And they made changes that affected, all the way to WrestleMania based on listening to the internet wrestling community. Bruce, we're seeing more wrestling on the shows now. That's what the internet wrestling community is always crying and carrying on about. We're seeing less stories. We're seeing less characters. We're seeing more wrestling. And the numbers continue on a weekly basis, the viewing audience, to go down. Because they're not going after the mass market like we were. There isn't a little something for everybody. There's wrestling. What my concern is, Bruce, is this. I don't think wrestling will ever die. But, Bruce, my concern is this. I think it's turning itself into a very niche market by playing to this crowd.
Well, but I think you also have to look at it, and I'll go back to, because I was doing a lot of interviews around the time with Royal Rumble and listening to everybody just shit all over Roman Reigns. And I was doing a lot of interviews back and forth, and I said, guys, listen to yourselves. The same group that was screaming about we want new, we want fresh. Why they got this guy Roman Reigns? He looks great. He's young. He hasn't been seen. When Daniel Bryan was taken out, so guy, you got to push Reigns. You got to do this. You got to do that. So they do it, and I don't believe that they did it listening to the internet audience. I think they had no choice to do it because they didn't have Daniel Bryan. So you look down the roster and you go, who's next? Who are we going to go with? Roman Reigns was a natural choice. So you're going with him, and you're pushing, man, because this is our guy. We're going to go to Mania with him. We're going to put the title on him. He's our guy. And in the middle of that, our guy last year, well, his neck's okay now. Shit, what do we do? And instead of being patient, saying, okay, we're going to go with Reigns, and we're going to push him to the moon. You know what, Daniel? Yes, and it's hard to do. We're going to put you on a back burner over here because as soon as you introduce Daniel Bryan and you tell me he's healthy and he's okay, well, that's my guy. This is the guy. Now he's got the story. He's coming back from a career-ending injury. So, of course I want him. So instead of, being patient and saying, okay, let's go ahead and go with Reigns and bring Daniel Bryan back a different way, later, after you've made this guy, then I think you wouldn't have had that reaction. But by Daniel coming back as early as he did, they wanted Daniel Bryan. They didn't want Roman Reigns anymore. But also what I believe happened too, was here's this kid, Seth Rollins, who was just underneath doing this the whole time. And he was simmering. He started bubbling. And the kid was hot. He really was. And I loved what they did. I really did. At first, I was sitting there going, oh, shit. But it worked. And it got you a new guy in there. It just wasn't the guy that you thought they were going to push, and it wasn't the guy they wanted. But it was somebody that, in my opinion, I'm a fan of Seth Rollins. I think he's a hell of a talent.
Bruce, listen, let me ask you this, and we can have, listen, I'm going to end it soon. I'm going to end it in 19 minutes because I'm going to have you on again because we talked 2 hours and I got through a third of what I wanted to ask you. Bruce, listen to me. I got to get your take on this, okay? Bruce, listen. We know what WWE pay-per-view buys used to do. We know that the UFC came along and started stealing a big chunk of that audience. Now they do crazy pay-per-view numbers. We know, bro, the comment Dana White made about, the reason you buy us and not them is because wrestling's fake, okay? Now, Bruce, listen, here's my concern. I want to get your answers to this. This is my concern. I've said this all the time. With UFC, we know what wrestling is. We know what it is. With UFC, it's kind of like, why am I going to pay for or watch a fake fight when I can see a real one? Well, the answer to that is I'm going to see storylines, and I'm going to see characters, and I'm going to see pageantry, and I'm going to see a spectacle. But Bruce, this is what I don't understand with the philosophy. UFC, doing huge numbers, Ronda Rousey on top. Now, all that stuff, wrestling is sports entertainment. When Vince labeled it as, that's what it is, Bruce. But what I don't understand is we're getting more away from the entertainment and into, the choreographed fight, when I think the philosophy should be the exact opposite. Let's go back to who we are, what we knew, the characters, the story, the larger-than-life spectacle, rather than more and more and more choreographed matches on the show. I don't understand why we're getting more away from the entertainment when I think they need to be going more in that direction.
Well, I think you have to have a happy medium. I hate the word fake. I won't describe the business as fake because it's not fake what they do. It's entertainment, showbiz, it's rock and roll. Man, when somebody asks me, hey, man, it's rock and roll. Okay? It's entertainment. But you're being entertained by the greatest athletes and put their body in more danger than any human should ever have to do. So, but when you talk about the entertainment and having more of it, I do think there's room for more of it. I think there has to be more of a happy mixture of it, but they've also got 3 hours to fill on a Monday night, and that's a long time to put all that together. And if you notice, a lot of it is, here's what happened earlier tonight. Here's what happened earlier tonight, 2, 3, 4 times in the show. After a while, Vince, you sit there, clicker. Man, I'm doing this because I've seen it. I saw it the first time you replayed it. I saw it the second time you replayed it. I got it. And 3 hours is a long time. But I think there has to be a happy medium. As far as the pay-per-view audience and what they're doing with the network, I've done the numbers. And when you look at the numbers of what they drew for all of their pay-per-views all year, and with the million and however many 1.2 million subscribers that they have now, over the year, they're doing better than they were with the old formula. Mm-hmm. And they're actually, they've got more revenue coming in that way. And you've got a loyal audience. You said it to me earlier today. They've got that audience on that network that can only grow and build from there. So to that point, that's a tough one, because from a business standpoint, it makes sense doing what they're doing. It really makes sense.
But Bruce, you kind of said this, and I question this all the time. Listen, I understand. I say I understand business. I'm the last thing of a businessman. I always say that. That's why I envy Eric. If I knew business like Eric knew business, I wouldn't be sitting in a Mickey Mouse office right now. But Bruce, here's what I say all the time. No, you got money. You got memorabilia that's dollars and cents. I got toys.
Why so serious? Yeah.
Bruce, but let me ask you this question. I always say, listen, I get they got nice coin for the third hour. I understand that, bro. USA wanted a third hour. They paid them for the third hour. That's business. But going back to exactly what you say, Bruce, that show, like every week, it's like they're just dragging it out to fill 3 hours. Replays.
And then you watch.
Yeah. So my question is, bro, was it worth the payoff? What was it? did it hurt the product more than the money they made?
I don't think it has yet, because you look at the business that they continue to do. Good God, they're in Barclays in Brooklyn for SummerSlam next weekend. They've got NXT sold out. They got SummerSlam sold out. They got Raw sold out. That's what, 45,000 tickets sold over 3 days.
Yeah, but Bruce, they're still down 7 million people on Monday night. So isn't that a shallow number?
But they're down 7 million people from a point in time where there were a whole lot less stations than we have now, a whole lot less avenues to get programming from Netflix and Amazon and all these other places.
But Bruce, if that were the case, then the NFL and Monday Night Football would be down. Monday Night Football isn't down.
Well, actually, they kind of are with all their games spread out, but they are.
Yeah,
are they down? They're down on Monday nights from what they were doing when they were on ABC.
Not
because they went to cable.
Yeah, but then they did not lose 3/4 of their audience, man. But anyway, let's move on, because I got 12 minutes and I got to cover this for you, Bruce. Listen.
Okay.
I felt I owed you a lot. I said you were my mentor. You took me under your wing, so I felt good about extending the olive branch and getting you in TNA. I felt good about that. Should I feel bad about that now?
Why?
Bro, listen, Bruce. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you can sum this up.
I appreciate that. I thank you very much for that.
Yeah, but bro, listen.
Nothing.
You went from this is how a wrestling business should run, and this is like TNA. Bruce, let me ask you this, Bruce. You were there, you had a taste of both. What was the biggest issue? Having worked, at the Mecca, knowing Vince, knowing
TNA?
Yes, yeah, biggest issue.
Dude, it all comes from the top. No different than you look at WWE, starts at the top. At TNA, if you're not going to have strong leadership, and your leadership is not going to back the people that you quote put in charge, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So, no matter what, you can give lip service all day long to something, but if there's nothing to back it up, it means nothing. So, from my standpoint, I came in to help you guys at TV. And when they came to me and they asked me about doing the talent relations thing, I needed a job.
Mm-hmm.
I needed a job, and I wanted to work in the wrestling business. I had two options. One of them, really I had one option. And you guys called me. And so, yeah, I was going to jump at it. And when she asked me to come in and do creative, frankly, I would have only rather have done creative, because that's what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I love to do that. TNA was fun, but it was, if I could have done it without the administrative part of it, would have been great.
Bruce, I got to ask you a question, and it's so hard for me to, bro, you know how everything is politically correctness these days, and, bro, we see the living hell that Hogan's going through right now and all that.
Right.
So I'm going to try to ask this the best way I can to get neither one of us in trouble. But you will be able to understand where I'm coming from, okay? Bro, I worked for Vince very closely for 5 years. You worked with him very closely for 20 years. Okay, bro? I worked with Dixie Carter, bro, for over a decade. Okay? And, Bruce, I found that, listen, Vince McMahon's a genius. All due respect, Dixie Carter, not so much. Okay? And I felt like I was on more of a level, of a mental level, like with Vince McMahon. I'm not saying I was as smart as Vince. I knew where he was coming from. I knew what he was thinking. I knew what he wanted. You get to know after being around somebody for so long. Bro, I was with Dixie for 10 years, and we were never on the same thinking level, never on the same wavelength, never. Bruce, I got to ask you this question, and there's no nice way to put this. a lot of times I was asking myself, Bruce, when I was working with her in these close situations for a decade, and it was, we were never on the same page. Bro, I would say to myself all the time, am I having such an issue because she's a woman and she's thinking like a woman would think, and me being a man, I can't understand her psychology or her mindset or where she's coming from because she was a woman in professional wrestling. Is that like the most sexist statement you've ever heard? Or do you think like there's something to that, Bruce? Because it was more than us disagreeing on everything. There was a level of not understanding each other.
Very sexist. But what I think, I really think Dixie, very nice lady.
Yes.
Extremely nice lady. I enjoyed being around Dixie. Loved to go out to dinner with her and have a few bottles of wine. And I loved, talking with Dixie and all that. I think that the disconnect is having been in a business environment, the industry in which she's the president of, if she is still the president, I don't even know that, is one of, based in the carnival world of carnies, and it's much more prevalent at TNA than it is at WWE. I think they've got most of that out. But I think Dixie did not have the ability to step outside of herself and look at things like, well, is he telling me the truth or is he just garnering for something else? She took everything at face value. And maybe I'm just too much of a cynic. And
what exactly do you mean by that, bro? Bruce, she took too much of it. What exactly do you mean by that?
I mean that if she ran into a talent out in catering and they told her something, that was it. She was going to go with whoever the last person that she bumped into, and that was the fact. But if you brought to her cold hard issues that needed to be dealt with, instead of dealing with them, a lot of times it was, if we don't talk about it, it's not an issue. It'll just go away. Well, that shit doesn't go away.
Yeah. And
if you don't, you deal with it, you nip it in the bud, you get rid of it, you move on. And I think there was too often an attitude and of it'll go away, it'll work itself out. Well, there's not a work that came out, just sprinkled genie dust, and everybody was going to be not upset that they hadn't been paying for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. You have to address it. You have to recognize the problem and admit it and address it and fix it. Versus, well, I just won't talk about it and it'll go away. But it just starts at the top. And I think that the structure there was one of, we had, our whole situation. Who the hell knew who was in charge?
Oh, it was, Bruce, our whole situation, I'll be honest with you, bro. It got to the point creatively of being, it got to the point of being so ridiculous that I knew somebody had to step out. And that, because it went from me and Matt to you sent it to Eric sent it to you came back to us. It got to the point of being ridiculous where I was like, this is not for the good of the company. Somebody's got to take themselves out of this equation.
But then add to that, the Dixie or whoever would read it, right before the show and talk to someone else.
Yep.
And come in and completely change everything that we have already painstakingly gone through this whole process.
Exactly.
Guy at the front at the park at the parking, he was saying that this would work.
Yeah.
Don't you think we should do that?
Bruce, you want to
know?
No,
I don't.
Bruce, you want to know something that happened early on, and I think you'll appreciate this because everything I think you've said is spot on, but there's a little backstory to it. And what the backstory is, Bruce, and I think this was the root of the problem, to be honest with you, when you go all the way back to the beginning. You know, bro, Jeff lost his backer 2 weeks in. Dixie, the Carter family pulled Jeff out, okay? Unfortunately, even at that point, since when they became the minority owners and Jeff was the majority, Jeff was the minority, in Jeff's mind, he was still running the company. And I got to tell you something, Bruce, he abused Dixie. Totally disrespected her, spoke to her like a mark. And me and Dutch, you know, good old Dutch, we used to say, Jeff, you know, throw her a bone. You can't win every single argument. And, bro, he abused her. So I think early on, Bruce, because of that, she felt, you know, inept of, you know, being in the wrestling business. Jeff was making her feel like she didn't know anything. Therefore, she didn't want to make any decisions. So from there, it's, okay, Eric and Hulk are going to come in and make the decisions now. And then, you know, okay, Bruce is going to make the decisions now. No, John Gaborik's going to make the decisions now. But what she didn't understand with trying to avoid the decisions and keep changing management and who was in charge, you keep changing the direction of the company.
Right.
You know, and it's going all over the place, you know, but that was the root of it, bro. He really abused her in the early years.
Yeah. And again, I don't think that Dixie's a bad person. She may be a great manager. I just think that in the position that she was, that all too often she didn't allow people to do their jobs and back them up when they made unpopular decisions that had to be made. And there just wasn't a whole lot of backup. And I don't know that the people that ended up making the final decisions had the best interest, because there were people making decisions beyond Dixie.
Oh, absolutely,
That didn't really always have the best intentions of the company in mind with some of the decisions that they made, and left Dixie in the dark.
Yeah, but Bruce, I will say this, and I've said this to Dixie, and she doesn't like me saying it, but I said it directly to her, and you know, because I feel very strongly about this. Bruce, I got to be honest with you. There were more occasions than one where I literally, with my own ears, heard Vince McMahon say, "I made a mistake. That was a mistake. We should have done it this way, or we should have." I've heard those words come out of his mouth. Bro, for 10 years, I never heard Dixie Carter one time fess up or say, I made a mistake. And, bro, I'm sorry. You cannot be the leader of a company not admitting to your mistakes, because now all your employees aren't going to admit to theirs.
Well, you can't be human and not make mistakes. Exactly. And also, you can't grow if you don't make mistakes. Yeah, exactly. Because you're not learning if you're not making mistakes and correcting them along the way. That's just impossible.
Yeah. So, well, Bruce, listen, we have to do a part 2. Will you agree to come on for a part 2?
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, because we have so much to talk about. But I'm telling you, I felt like your son. I felt like little Kane saying, "Daddy, tell me more for the last 2 hours." But listen,
just ignore me.
You gave me 2 hours of your time, and bro, some of those stories, I mean, were just classic. And the people that you worked with, and the things that you accomplished, Bruce. And Bruce, I'm going to say this. I said this to you in private. I hate the fact that you're not out there, you know, sharing your wisdom and sharing your stories on a public forum. I know you're helping Booker with his territory. Let's give that a plug right now, because I'm not sure the name of Booker's territory.
Reality of Wrestling, and it's based in Houston, Texas. And I'm not saying this because it's me and Book and all. It is simply the best independent wrestling out there, in my opinion, anywhere. These kids bust their ass day in, day out at his school. They bust their ass in the ring. Their television show, we tell stories. Mm-hmm. We tell stories getting into the matches. We have issues. We work with them on camera. It's great. We've got some big things coming. Like I told you today, I said I almost wanted to postpone this to next week because I hope we have a big announcement to make. And maybe next time that'll be what it is.
Yeah.
But it's such a joy to be around young, hungry talent who's out there busting their butt for the betterment of the company and doing everything they need to do, and listening, and learning, and having fun.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it if you're not having fun.
Yeah.
And this is fun. It's good, and we're making a difference in that regard. So it's neat. But hey, man, I'm available. So
you got to get out there. You got to get out there, Bruce. I always, listen, I'm not just saying this because you're on here. You go back and listen to my back podcast. I always say nobody tells a.
Does it cost money to do that?
Some of them do, Bruce. Not all of them. But
let's give me one of those little codes.
I'll get you a gimmick code for standing me for 2 hours. But I always say nobody can tell a story like Bruce Prichard. Nobody, bro. And that's a whole show right there. I wish you would go out and do more of that.
Well, cool. I appreciate it, man. Who knows? Maybe one day I will. I don't know.
Bruce, what about Twitter? People want to follow you on Twitter. Where do they go?
Bruce Prichard at Twitter. That's the handle, and it's Bruce Prichard on Facebook. So
okay. Well, Bruce, thank you so much, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure, bro. I love the stories. I'm going to have you on again. We'll talk about the Booker thing, and some kind of announcement you have. But, thanks, bro, not only for tonight, but, the years in the business, calling you my friend, you taking me under your wing. I've always been grateful to you for that.
All the heat I'm going to get now. Yeah. You're the son of a bitch to blame. Now it's all going to come down on me now. You son of a bitch.
But listen.
Hey, I'm proud of everybody that I've had the, it really and truly is. It's humbling. When you look at guys and different people and do that. So to me, that truly is humbling. I thank you for that, man. I really do appreciate it.
And bro, I'm
proud of that.
We didn't get to put Jerry Briscoe over in the conversation.
Yeah, well, Jerry Briscoe's my best friend in the whole world, man. I love Jerry.
Bro, Bruce, I tell everybody says to me, what was the favorite thing you ever did? I'm like, bro, there was nothing better than that. Nothing, bro. Bro, because you know what it is? They were so good and didn't have a clue to how good they were that it was unbelievable. Bruce, is that Bruno behind you?
Where?
What is that bust? Yeah.
Hang on. That's Maurice Tillet, the French Angel. That's his death mask. Okay, and it was, if you look up Maurice Tillet, the French Angel, he had this giant head. It was a little bit bigger than Andre's, but he had a normal-sized body. And this is Paul Bosch's.
Oh, wow. So that's been passed down for years then, huh?
Yeah. And so when Milo Steinborn had got to send it to Paul, and he unpacked it, and he had this bronze one made. Wow. There's a few wax busts like this, a couple of them that are left in the world. I think I have the only bronze one.
Bro, I thought it was Bruno because of the big Italian nose. That's what I was looking at, Bruce.
Nah, it's a big French nose. He's an ugly mug. But it was really cool when I would have him in my other house. I would put him profile, and you'd come down the street. It had a big glass door, and the lights would hit it just right, and it just was menacing as hell. Just cast a shadow all down the front hall.
Bruce, were you the one with the house in Monroe? Were you the one who painted your windows black?
Yeah, that wouldn't be me. That was your friend. Never forget that.
Oh my! Talk about Bizarro Land. Anyway, Bruce, listen, man, it's been great. Good luck with everything, bro. I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon, Bruce.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Next time I'll have something to plug.
All right, thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Critically acclaimed producers Kayfabe Commentaries bring you the most candid shoot interview ever with Sabu, nephew of the legendary Sheik.
Would your aunt be talking business
of course
with the Sheik?
Oh, yeah.
And Carney. She could speak Carney better than me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Prepare to explore the darkest corners of the man behind Sabu.
I would have stopped pain pills entirely if I was out of pain. Because I've been a little too long at the dance myself.
You feel now you've been too long at the dance.
Breaking Kayfabe with Terry Sabu Brunk, now available on DVD and on demand at shootinterviews.com.